Calling in the cavalry, Republican-led states deploy National Guard troops to Washington, while insiders accuse D.C. police of cooking the books. Plus, the Department of Housing and Urban Development adopts a new policy for all of its services, English only. And Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House today to meet with President Trump, and he brought with him an impressive lineup of friends. Those stories and more today, Monday, August 18th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. The streets of Washington, D.C. are already teeming with federal officers from a variety of agencies as well as National Guard troops, and those streets are about to get a little more crowded. 3 Republican-led states are shipping more Guard members to D.C. as part of President Trump's crackdown on crime and homelessness in the city. West Virginia is sending 400 troops, South Carolina promised 200 troops, and Ohio pledged 150 troops, so more than 700, all heading to the Beltway in the coming days. What they'll do when they get on the ground in the nation's capital is a little bit of a question mark. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said his troops will serve as, quote, presence patrols and act as added security. But no real specifics beyond that description. But that phrase he used, presence patrols, might be the best indicator of what's going on. It appears to be mainly about optics. As one of the federal agents on the ground explains it, it's about seeing more than doing.
So we're not out here, we're not making arrests, we're not grabbing people up and throwing them in the back of the cars like some people have already accused us of doing. We're walking around talking to people. If I see somebody that's filming, I have no problem going up and saying, hey, how are you? Because we're just doing the kinder, friendlier. We're out here, so hopefully if anybody is around here that is going to try and shoot up the place tonight or rob somebody or kidnap somebody, that they're deterred because there's so many of us out here.
The underlying issue here, just how bad is crime really in D.C.? It's become a political hot potato and is complicated by an ongoing internal investigation into one police commander accused of changing crime data. A police union rep says a former lieutenant reclassified more serious crimes as lesser offenses. Now, a New York Post exclusive. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is making a change. The agency wants to speak with one voice, one language, and that language is English. The switch to an English-only protocol is outlined in a new memo exclusively obtained by the Post that HUD Secretary Scott Turner plans to send out across the department today. This is part of a government-wide effort to mirror President Trump's executive order, one that he signed in March, to designate English as the country's official language. Now, HUD asserts that this change won't impact those who have what it called meaningful access to its services. Prior administrations, however, took the opposite approach, accommodating more than 200 languages to help low-income legal immigrants who didn't speak English fluently. Now, there will be limited exceptions to this new mandate, including for the hearing and seeing impaired, but beyond those, all services will be offered in English and English only. Now, HUD will begin to roll back language translations starting today. That means all communications, correspondences, as well as physical and digital published materials will be in English. The department is also reviewing its contracts with English translation services. And now to a nightmare in California. The mysterious disappearance of a baby boy takes a sinister turn. Was 7-month-old Emmanuel kidnapped? Investigators in Southern California aren't so sure after the little boy's mother suddenly clammed up under questioning. Rebecca Harrow claims that her son was abducted from her car after someone knocked her unconscious while she was changing his diaper. Now, Harrow was outside of a sporting goods store in San Bernardino County when, in her telling, she heard a voice say "Hola," and then everything went black.
Woke up with this on my face. I didn't see anything. Like you said, I woke up on the floor and my son was gone. If you hear anything, please come forward. I'm begging you. Please don't harm my son. Just please protect him and bring him forward. I'm begging you.
But now authorities are skeptical and think that she might be hiding something. Over the weekend, the sheriff's department said that they are not ruling out foul play because of what they labeled inconsistencies in Harrow's story. And what raised even more suspicion? Emmanuel's mom cut off her interview with police when they confronted her with details that they say didn't match what investigators had already pieced together. Now, little Emmanuel was last seen Thursday night wearing a black Nike onesie. He has brown hair and he weighs 21 pounds. Now to our big story. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is heading to the White House today for a meeting with President Trump, and he's bringing quite the geopolitical entourage. This meeting, of course, the follow-up to President Trump and President Putin's Alaskan summit on Friday. Things didn't go exactly as planned. President Trump seems to have backtracked on demands for a ceasefire from Putin. So for his trip to Washington, the Ukrainian president brought backup. Top European leaders, including the heads of state of the UK, France, Germany, and Italy, as well as NATO Secretary General and the EU president, are all with Zelensky in the nation's capital. Asked about Zelensky's squad, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says it's not what some suggest, which is to stop Zelensky from signing away Ukraine and Europe's future.
You said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks. It will require both sides to make concessions. It will require both sides to get things they're asking for. That's how these deals are made, whether we like it or not.
The stakes are enormous. The fate of Zelensky's country and the lives of his countrymen are on the line here, and that could have massive impacts on Europe more broadly. So what can we expect today in the wake of the Trump-Putin summit and the seemingly abandoned bid to broker a ceasefire? For more on all this, I'm joined now by the New York Post Deputy Managing Editor Michael Zenny. Michael, we spent the whole weekend really focused on this meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Now it's Zelensky's turn, and he's bringing half of Europe with him. So what's next here?
Well, look, I think that it's actually instructive to go back to a couple of things that Secretary of State Rubio actually said to sort of help us understand how the Trump administration is looking at this. First, he actually said, life in America on a daily basis will be largely unaffected whether there's peace in Ukraine or not. I think that that shows that the real stakes here, and they realize that the real stakes here are in Ukraine and in Europe, right? And then the other thing is he said that the U.S. is not in a position to accept or reject any peace deal because ultimately it's up to the Ukrainians and it's going to come down to Russia and Ukraine to make peace here. And so what we're going to see next is we're going to see Europe and Ukraine weigh in after Putin was able to meet Trump face to face and say his piece.
You know, it's interesting that you said that because that's a really good point that we do need to focus on when we're talking about what the outcome was from the Trump and Putin meeting. President Trump was not empowered to speak on behalf of the Ukrainians. So we knew nothing was going to come out of it in regards to anything sort of permanent or actionable. But there has to be compromise, right? If you're going to have any kind of deal. And Zelensky said that Putin's demand that Ukraine cede land that they still occupy is just a non-starter. That should surprise no one. So is there room for negotiating? I mean, where can we have progress if it seems like we're constantly at a stalemate from the Russian and Ukrainian sides?
So our chief Washington correspondent, Stephen Nelson, got some really key reporting. He's been doing a tremendous job sort of digging into the ins and outs of this meeting. But the key quote that I think is really at play here is that the future of this one region in particular, Donetsk, is the whole ball game. That was this high-level sources quote. And basically it comes down to, you know, whether or not they can agree to what happens to this territory that Russia seized, right? I think this is something that's going to be a very hard pill to swallow for the Ukrainians. Putin's demand that they give up land that they actually still control in these regions. And critics of the president, especially those who say that he's been too soft on Russia, have said that basically moving the front line through a negotiation with this could make it even easier for future invasion, future aggression by Russia.
Yeah, I mean, a hard pill to swallow might be one that Zelensky's not willing to do at all. His whole point this entire time is we are a sovereign nation. This isn't land for you to have. So how to square that circle in a negotiation is going to be really interesting. And with a negotiation, you have to have both sides at the table. President Trump had said that the next meeting should include both Putin and Zelensky. But is it possible to make progress without a meeting and with the United States playing the middleman that we seem to be right now?
Yeah, look, if I actually knew the answer to that, I'd have some bets I'd like to place on the New York Jets. But honestly, we'll really see tomorrow. Nobody is really tipping their hand. We've heard sort of supportive noises from the Europeans and from Zelensky. It looks like even if they have concerns, they've really been reticent to voice them. But it's a simple platitude, but it's still true. Ultimately, this is going to come down to Ukraine and Russia and whether they can actually get on the same page.
They're very, very simple questions with seemingly impossible answers. But thank you so much, Michael Zenny, for trying to explain it as best as we can as we head into this next round of meetings.
Thank you.
And now from our friends at Page Six. Is it just a bad movie or is it cancel culture? Sydney Sweeney's latest film, Americana, did not do well at the box office this weekend. And when I say did not do well, I mean bad. Like really, really, really bad. Americana made only $840,000 after debuting in 1,100 theaters across the country. That's a per theater average of $460. I have shoes worth more than that. The point is this. Americana is a box office bomb. The plot follows Sweeney's Penny Jo, a waitress and wannabe country singer who gets in all kinds of trouble trying to outwit and outlast a ruthless criminal hunting for a rare artifact. It's kind of like if you crossed A Star is Born with National Treasure, but without the special je ne sais quoi that Nicolas Cage adds. And unfortunately for Braun Studios, which helmed the film, the movie was released as a big chunk of the internet is still kind of angry about Sweeney's American Eagle ad. You know the one. I talked about it right here on the podcast. The thing about the internet, though, it notoriously has a short attention span, so this bust might not actually be an Americana Eagle issue. Now, I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not offering any review here, but it appears it was just another swing and a miss for Sweeney this summer. And finally today, we're ending on some good news. This one is gonna pull at your heartstrings a bit. Rodolfo De Paz works the register at two Roseville, Minnesota restaurants, Chipotle and Dairy Queen. To make ends meet, he puts in 80 hours a week between both gigs, and that's not even the hard part. He walks to both jobs back and forth. Like the Postal Service, he does it in rain or sleet or snow. And in case you haven't noticed, it's freaking freezing in Minnesota most of the year. Now, De Paz, an El Salvadoran who is in the country on a work visa, wakes up at 5:30 a.m. to work his AM shift. He clocks out at 2:30, walks across the town to the Dairy Queen, and then walks back home when his day is finally done. That's a grueling commute. Now, if you're wondering why he couldn't afford a car with two jobs there, every extra penny that De Paz earns goes home to El Salvador, to his family, and to his two children. See what I mean? Heartstrings, they're getting pulled right now. Now for the good part. His coworkers watched this day in and day out, watched him walk back and forth, and they decided to take matters into their own hands. First, someone gifted him a bike. And then someone he met at a Bible study upped the ante and gifted De Paz with a car. It's a 2000 Buick Century, but to De Paz, it might as well be a Ferrari. This story really puts our commutes into some perspective here. We need perspective on a Monday. Now, if you want something to make your commute a little better, may I suggest me? So like and subscribe to the New York Postcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube so I can go along with you. Now, have an excellent, excellent Monday, my friends. I am glad we are kicking this week off together and with a heartwarming story to end on. Warms my heart. We love this for us. For everything else you want to know, though, of course, go to the New York Post in print or online. The only other thing that story did was really make me want a Dairy Queen Blizzard. See you tomorrow, guys.